Hello and welcome. Listen very closely now. We think we know the story of America well. We think it starts with a few brave sailors. But the true history is much older and deeper. It is a story hidden by ice and time itself. We travel back to a time called the Ice Age. The world was much colder many years ago. Huge sheets of ice covered much of the earth. The water of the oceans was trapped in this ice. This caused the level of the sea to drop greatly. When the sea level dropped, something changed. A piece of dry land appeared between continents. It connected Asia and North America strongly. This path is now called the Bering Land Bridge. It was a natural road made of rock and soil. This land bridge was not a small, thin road. It was a wide, grassy plain for many animals. Animals like the huge woolly mammoth walked here. They moved slowly to find new food and new space. The animals did not know they were moving continents. The first people were living in Asia then. They were hunters who followed the wild animals. They needed the animals for food and for clothes. They saw the herds moving across the bridge. The hunters followed their food onto the new land. These brave people crossed the land bridge slowly. This was the first great human migration. They were the first to set foot in America. This happened maybe 15,000 years ago. They did not know they were discovering a new world. The ice was a powerful force on the land. It covered the center of North America deeply. The early people could not walk to the south easily. They stayed near the coast for a long, cold time. The ice was a big, white, frozen wall for them. Then the world slowly started to get warmer. The massive sheets of ice began to melt slowly. The trapped ocean water flowed back to the sea. The land bridge slowly disappeared under the water. The connection between the continents was broken, but the melting ice also created a path south. A passage opened up between the big ice sheets. The people could finally move toward the south. They walked down through the new open corridor. They found new environments and warmer weather. These first people were clever and very strong. They learned to hunt the giant Ice Age animals. They used simple stone tools and sharp spears. They were constantly moving to find food sources. They adapted to the cold land with great success. As they moved south, the land changed around them. They found big forests and wide sunny plains. They found huge rushing rivers full of fish. They spread out across the entire continent slowly. They settled in every part of the new land. These people are the ancestors of a great group. They are the ancestors of the Native Americans. They are the original people of this continent. They were here long before any other people. They lived here for many, many thousands of years. The big animals of the Ice Age started to die. The giant mammoths and mastodons disappeared. The climate change was too fast for them to survive. The people had to change their hunting methods. They started hunting smaller, faster animals now. They developed different ways of living here. Some stayed near the oceans and fished often. Some lived in the forests and hunted deer well. Some settled on the plains and followed the bison. The people adapted to their new specific places. This massive continent became their home fully. They learned the language of every hill and river. They learned the secrets of every plant and tree. They had a deep respect for the power of nature. They were living a life fully connected to the earth. They had no maps or written history books then. Their knowledge was kept in long, sacred stories. The stories told of the great journey from the north. The stories explained how the rivers were created. The knowledge was passed from parent to child now. This was the beginning of the true American story. It started with people walking across a land bridge. It started with hunters chasing animals into the cold. It started with adaptation and deep survival skills. The stage was set for many great cultures to rise. This land was not empty or waiting for discovery. It was already full of people and ancient life. The next part of our story will show their cultures. We will see how they lived before the new people came. They were building complex societies on their own. We saw the first people arrive in the last part. They spread slowly across the entire land. The environment was very different everywhere. This caused the people to create new cultures. These cultures were distinct and very diverse. In the Southwest, people learned to farm well. They built complex systems to move the water. They grew important crops like corn, beans, and squash. These three foods were called the Three Sisters. They built homes called pueblos from mud and stone. These Pueblo people built houses into the cliffs. These cliff dwellings kept them safe and very cool. They created beautiful pottery for storing food. They developed complex religious ceremonies. Their lives were centered around the growing cycles. In the vast Great Plains, life was different. The people followed the enormous bison herds. The bison were the central part of their survival. They used the bison meat for food to eat. They used the bison hide for clothes and for shelter. The Plains people lived in special homes called teepees. The teepee was easy to move and set up quickly. They used horses after European arrival, but not yet. Before horses, they hunted the bison on foot now. Their life required great skill and much bravery. In the Northeast, people lived near the deep forests. They lived in permanent villages for long periods. They built long houses from wood and tree bark here. They were farmers who also hunted and fished often. Groups like the Iroquois formed strong political alliances. The Iroquois created a powerful political union. This union was called the Iroquois Confederacy. It was a system of laws and shared agreements. It helped keep peace among the different nations. This showed their complex political thinking skills. Along the northwest coast, life was rich and easier. The ocean gave them large amounts of fresh fish. They used the tall, thick trees to build big canoes. They created detailed, carved wooden totem poles. They held special celebrations called potlatches. The potlatch was a massive gift-giving ceremony. A leader gave away valuable goods to show his status. This tradition was central to their social structure. It showed that wealth was meant to be shared with all. Their culture was strong, artistic, and very stable. The people of the Southeast lived in warm regions. They built large earthen mounds for their ceremonies. These mounds were often shaped like animals or squares. They were skilled farmers of corn and other crops. Their societies were complex with clear social ranks. Every culture had a special relationship with nature. Nature was seen as a living entity, not just a resource. The trees, rivers, and animals were all respected deeply. They often asked for permission before hunting an animal. They lived in a balanced way with the whole environment. Their beliefs were deeply spiritual and powerful. They believed that spirits lived in all things here. The sun, the wind, and the rocks held spirits. The elders and shamans held the sacred knowledge. Their religion was connected to every daily action. They used oral tradition to pass down history. Oral means they spoke the stories and did not write them. The elders told the young people the ancient myths. These stories taught them the laws and morals. This way, the history was kept alive and strong. They did not use gold or silver as daily money. They traded goods based on need and shared value. The idea of selling land was very strange to them. Land was a gift from the Creator to be used by all. It was not something a person could own forever. They created complex systems of self-governance. They had their own leaders and their own laws, clearly. They had ways to settle arguments between groups. They were not disorganized or without clear rules. These societies functioned well for thousands of years. The Mississippian culture was very large and powerful. They built the big city of Cahokia near the Mississippi River. Cahokia had massive earth mounds and many thousands of people. It was a major trade and cultural center for a long time. This shows that Native Americans built great cities too. Life was not always peaceful between different groups. Sometimes they had wars over land or resources, but peace was often established through long treaties. They knew how to manage their differences and conflicts. Their cultures valued diplomacy and understanding. This continent was a place of vibrant human life. It held hundreds of distinct tribes and languages. It was a place of agriculture, art, and complex politics. It was a very old, settled world long ago. The world was full of successful and unique people. This entire world existed on its own completely. It had developed without any contact from Europe. Its history and its future were running their own course. But this would soon be interrupted by ships coming. The great ocean would stop being a huge barrier. The ocean was about to bring the new people. These new people would bring a very different worldview. They would bring new tools and new diseases also. They would bring the idea that they could own the land. This moment of contact would change everything forever. We must remember the richness of this ancient life. We must remember the art and the strong leaders. We must remember the wisdom of living with nature. This was the reality of America before the ships arrived. The peace and stability were about to be tested hard. We now come to a critical moment in history. The ancient life of the Native Americans was full. They had their own strong cities and quiet farms, but far across the vast blue Atlantic Ocean. New people were making plans for the West. These new people were the Europeans. They were looking for new trade routes and gold. They had different tools and different beliefs. They wanted to find new lands to claim strongly. Their ships were getting better and much stronger. In the year 1492, a famous trip happened. A sailor named Christopher Columbus sailed west. He was trying to find a faster route to Asia. He landed on islands in the Caribbean Sea. He did not know he had found a new continent. This moment is called the first contact. The two worlds met suddenly for the first time. The native people saw the strange big ships. The Europeans saw new lands and new people. Everything changed from that moment onward. The Europeans brought many new things with them. They brought horses, metal tools, and new crops. But they also brought new, terrible diseases. Diseases like smallpox spread very quickly now. The native people had no natural defense against them. The diseases were a massive silent killer. They killed millions of Native Americans, sadly. In some areas, 90% of the people died. Whole villages and great cultures disappeared fast. This was a tragic disaster for the continent. The Europeans came with a different idea of land. They believed land was something you could own. They believed they could buy, sell, and claim it. The native people saw this idea as very strange. They thought the land belonged to everyone and God. The Europeans wanted the land for farming and wealth. They wanted to plant their own crops and build towns. They ignored the fact that people already lived there. They acted as if the land was empty and waiting. This huge misunderstanding led to much conflict. More Europeans arrived over the next centuries. They came from Spain, France, and especially England. They built permanent settlements along the coasts. They pushed further and further into the continent. The pressure on the native people grew very strong. The conflict between the groups was often violent. The Europeans had guns and powerful metal weapons. The Native Americans fought bravely to protect their homes. But the loss of so many people to disease weakened them. The power balance shifted heavily towards the newcomers. The Europeans sometimes made treaties with the tribes. A treaty is a formal agreement between groups. But often these treaties were not honored fully. The settlers wanted more land, and they kept pushing. Promises were often broken in the search for space. The native people lost their traditional way of life. Their hunting grounds were turned into European farms. Their sacred places were often destroyed or taken. They were forced to move away from their ancestors' land. This process is called displacement, and it caused great pain. The Europeans brought new laws and new religions. They tried to change the Native American beliefs. They said the Dreamtime stories were wrong, sadly. They tried to force the people to live like them. This attack on culture was very deep and difficult. The arrival of the Europeans marked a clear break. It ended the long, independent history of the continent. The Native American cultures faced an existential threat. They fought to keep their identity and their land. This struggle is a central part of American history. The European settlements grew into strong colonies. They relied on new trade and farming systems. They brought African people across the ocean by force. These people were forced into slavery for labor. This created another layer of deep injustice here. The colonies eventually fought for independence. They fought against the control of the European kings. They created a new nation called the United States. This new nation continued to expand across the land. The Native American struggle did not end with independence. The new nation continued to take the Western land. The government used treaties and force to move tribes. They forced many people onto small, distant reservations. A reservation is a piece of land set aside for a tribe. This marked a final loss of their vast ancestral lands. This historical period is full of complexity. It is a story of great courage and tragic loss. It shows how two different worlds cannot easily mix. It reminds us that history is often painful to hear. The legacy of this moment still shapes America today. We have arrived in the modern world of America. Today, America is a huge, diverse country. It is home to people from every nation globally. It is a land of great cities and vast opportunities. The nation is built on the layers of its deep past. The history of the first people is still important. Native Americans live across the country today. They maintain their cultures and their own languages. They teach the wisdom of living connected to nature. Their presence is a vital part of American life. The country now formally recognizes past injustices. Museums and schools teach the true, complete history. There is a growing respect for Native American rights. The nation is learning to honor the first inhabitants. This process of respect is crucial for the future. Modern America is a mix of many historical parts. It has the energy of the early European settlers. It has the enduring spirit of the African people. It has the ancient knowledge of the Native Americans. This mix creates the unique American identity today. The vast land that once connected continents remains. It is now covered by cities, highways, and farms. But the rivers still flow where the ice melted long ago. The mountains still stand where the ancestors prayed. The land remembers everything that has happened here. The story of this continent is not simple or easy. It is full of moments of great courage and great pain. It teaches us that progress is often complex. We must look at both the good and the difficult parts. To ignore the past is to misunderstand the present. The story of America teaches us a strong, gentle truth. We must never forget the origins of any nation. We must remember the people who came first always. Truth is the foundation upon which respect is built. We must honor all the memories of this ancient land. Thank you for listening to this entire history. We hope these simple words helped you learn English. We hope you gained a deeper understanding of America. Keep an open mind as you learn more history soon. Please come back and continue your learning with us.